Who is Nick Grimmgreen? Well, if you don't know, you've probably been living under a rock for the past 6 or 7 years. Grimm is one of the most popular YouTubers, creating videos on vaping products, news, and advocacy. He's amassed over 300,000 subscribers and 50 million video views. Grimm is joining us today in an interview we shot just before Dr. Scott Gottlieb, the new FDA commissioner, announced a 4-year delay in the pre-market tobacco application process, which if implemented would certainly have killed the vaping industry in the US. And now that outcome is far from certain. It's great news for vapers, and of course RegWatch will have detailed coverage in upcoming episodes. And now, the fabulous Mr. Grimmgreen. Nick, thanks for joining us here on RegWatch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Of course.
You bet. First off, what kind of videos do you produce about vaping and why?
I used to just do review. I review products. When I first started vaping back in 2009, I was just amazed at how well it worked for me. And so I thought I would like to get on the internet and tell people about this and about how great it is and how well it worked for me. And, you know, back in 2009, there was no vapors on YouTube. YouTube wasn't a career thing like it is now. It was just a place to get information and share funny cat videos or whatever. And I thought, wow, that could be a really good platform to just get up there and start talking about vaping and what worked for me and new products. And I figured if I could help some people get to where I was, then that would be a really good thing. And I picked it up heavily as a hobby, you know.
So that the motivation then was pretty much solely at the time to help smokers try to quit?
Yeah, absolutely. Help smokers try to quit. You know, I still really focus on helping smokers quit. And what I focus on a lot more now is I feel like every vapor deserves to have a really good vaping experience. You know what I mean? A lot of people get into it and they'll have like a burnt flavor or a weird tank or maybe a battery that doesn't quite charge, and a lot of that's troubleshooting. And so I like to think of myself as like a YouTube troubleshooter, I guess.
All right. Well, hey, everybody, it's Grimmgreen from Grimmgreen.com. Thank you so much for joining me again here on Wildcard Wednesday. What are we going to be talking about this Wednesday? This little guy right here. So this is the Jabo Wismac Suck My Mod drip tank called the Theorem drip tank. It's a strange little thing. I am incredibly passionate about vaping. It's the one thing that's kept me from smoking cigarettes for the last 7 years. I do believe it's an incredibly powerful tool for helping people stay away from traditional tobacco cigarettes.
From the very beginning, even back in 2009, it was an uphill battle. There weren't very many vapors at all, but there was still a lot of legislation going on. Back in 2010, actually, California tried to completely ban vaping. And at the time, Governor Schwarzenegger, he vetoed it and said that if adults want to use these, then adults should be able to use these. And I knew from that moment that it was going to be an uphill battle, probably just continuing on for as long as vaping exists in the world. And so I feel like it's someone like me who's on YouTube, who has a following. I feel like it's a strong responsibility to communicate that and to inform and educate people on the subject of vaping and what's going on on a federal and on a state level as well.
I think that's a bit unusual, Nick, because there are a lot of YouTubers that are in the vaping space tend to shy completely away from advocacy.
Yeah, it's everybody can do whatever they want to do. That's basically where I'm at. I think I feel really strongly about advocacy because I've been vaping for a little over 8 years now, and I'm making YouTube videos for just as long. And so from the very beginning, like I said, it was an uphill battle, and this isn't something that we can just easily give up on. And I think a lot of the new vapors that haven't been around to see all these horrible things and horrible legislation that is getting introduced and passed in certain states maybe don't feel as compelled to get involved or to do something, there's people way above my pay grade that are full-time advocates that travel to Washington, that travel to these, state Senate committee meetings and health committee meetings, and they do it full-time. I do this much compared to what they do is this much. But I feel like if everybody did this much, we might be in a lot better place than we are right now.
This is a leading question. However,
Sure.
Do you feel that the regular vapor out there is doing enough?
I meet a lot of really passionate, dedicated vapors. The vapors that I talk to via social media or emails or anything like that, they are always looking for guidance. Just the other day, I got an email from a fella in the Midwest who said, "Hey, Grimm, I don't have a lot of vapors here. I joined CASA. I write letters. I email congressmen. What else can I be doing?" There's people who are really, really passionate about it, and I think that's unbelievable. And there's a lot of vapors who they pass through the community and they get a vape that they like, and then they don't really partake in the community aspect of it. They don't watch YouTube videos. They don't go on Reddit and look at the e-cig subreddit or anything like that. And for them, vaping is just another issue, along with, things like healthcare and other political things. It's just another issue that they're not necessarily really fired up about, like a lot of the other vapors that I talk to that have been around for a long time.
When you look at what's going on in the U.S., it's hard not to see the politics behind it. It seems clearly that it's a left-right issue, and it's unusual that the left seems to be the problem and the right seems to be very supportive. How do you explain that? And if that is the case, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's very confusing. It is definitely a political issue. I very much believe that. I think the San Francisco flavor ban is a really good example of that. This legislation gets introduced as a political thing and not realizing how it will really, really affect people. And harm reduction isn't a foreign concept to a lot of these politicians. I mean, there's needle exchanges in place for addicts. So harm reduction isn't a foreign concept, but they are very anti-vaping, anti-tobacco, especially in California. And it's very political. I mean, Cohen, the girl that introduced the flavor ban, she's been on the news. She's been on 1,000 different websites. Vapors are talking about her. Advocacy groups are talking about her. I feel like that translates into good political, clout, as it were.
Well, yes, it seems to be the case. It's a rallying cry across the Democratic Party, state and federal.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so bizarre because sometimes I'll watch Fox News, which is, generally a very conservative news network. And there's a lot of people in Fox News that are very, very pro-vaping, very anti-regulation, personal freedom, pro-vaping, which is, I don't know, unexpected, I guess, when we have Democrats or liberals who are in favor of things like tobacco or, harm reduction. And it's just very conflicting. I think they agree on a lot of things, but they don't want to agree because they're part of conflicting political ideologies.
My opinion on that is that vaping has kind of brought out a bizarro Jerry world.
Yeah, it has definitely brought out a bizarro Jerry world, a very bizarro Jerry world.
One last big, important brouhaha question, and that is...
Brouhaha.
Who is the enemy?
Oh, man. I wouldn't even... That's a really difficult question to answer. Can I think about it? Who do you think is the enemy?
Oh, the left. The left.
You think it's
the left?
You're firmly in the left?
Yeah, it's the left.
I tend to go that way as well. I think the left is the enemy. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I don't think it's just the left, but I think it's what the left has been doing for so long that they don't know any differently as far as regulations, taxes. That's just what they do. And so when vaping comes along, of course they're going to use the same method that they've been using for the last however 100 years. They're going to apply their leftist, democratic, ideal to vaping, and it just that doesn't work. That's just not going to work. Over-regulation isn't going to work. And you can talk to a lot of people who will say, I think big tobacco is the enemy. And I don't necessarily think that big tobacco is the enemy. And there's a lot of people who say, I think big pharma is the enemy. Big pharmaceuticals in the United States, huge enemy. I don't really think that they're the biggest enemy. I genuinely think that regulation is the enemy. And unfortunately, the regulation came from Obama era administration, heavy regulation from the Democrats. There's no way to tiptoe around that. They want a nationwide flavor ban. They want heavy regulations. They don't want vapors to be vapors. They don't want vaping to be a thing. And I've said this 1,000 times, and it's hard to talk politics on my YouTube because I tend to not generally get so serious about politics. But if Hillary Clinton had been elected, vaping would be gone by the end of the year. I wholeheartedly believe that.
It seems to me that if you are not able to face the enemy, to really identify who your enemy is, or if you do and you realize that it's you staring yourself back in the mirror.
Yeah, right.
How do you effectively fight that then?
Yeah, it's tough. That's one of the uphill battles of vaping, is really being pro vaping in spite of other things that, other political leanings or stances you might have. It's disruptive. It's a disruptive industry. It's not just disruptive to tobacco, it's disruptive to politics as well. And I think we see that firsthand.
So, Grimm, let me ask you, what's up next for you?
Oh, I've got all sorts of big plans. Right now, I'm really focusing on my YouTube. I opened up a Patreon account where my supporters can, give me money directly for my content. And so I'm doing everything I can to really nurture that relationship and do special things for my Patreons. I love my YouTube. It's constantly growing. Me and my buddy Dwayne, Homeboy OC, we do hardware. We have the Recoil RDA. I do liquid lines. One of the things I'm planning, hopefully for later this year, I don't want to give too much away, but I'm planning a tour. Like, if I was a band, I would be going on tour. And what I'm going to do is visit vape shops. And I'm going to organize a big tour. And it's going to be a fun, big tour party with an RV and vape shops and just really bringing the community together. There's a lot of vape events that happen throughout the United States, and I try to go to as many of them as I can. And there's just some places I've never been where I've never got to meet the people that watch my videos. I've never been to places like Idaho. I've never met any of my subscribers in Idaho, so I want to go to Idaho and meet the people that are supporting me and watching my videos. And so that's something, I don't want to say too much, but that's something we planned later. It's always, you're always moving forward. You have to hustle, you have to move forward, you have to build your empire, and that's what I'm trying to do.